in Simple Economics Radio.
Hello, this is Mauricio Garita, and this is Simple Economics Radio. And we're going to talk about an Stoic concept that I really like, that is Memento Mori. Memento Mori is basically translated to remember that you're gonna die or that you're gonna leave this place. And this is an interesting concept because it leads to an analysis of the world. When Nietzsche started to practice the Memento Mori through existentialism, another branch of philosophy that believes that we're going to die, and that's the main part of existentialism, he started arguing that it is important for us to understand that death cannot be avoided. And from there, you can see another Stoics. And today we're going to focus on the works of Socrates, specifically on the work of Platon that wrote the Apology of Socrates. And Socrates, what really did was defend himself from three persons that accused him of misleading the youth, of insulting them, of telling them that things were not right. So the Apology of Socrates starts with a defense. Socrates is defending himself, and he starts explaining why. And the first thing Socrates demonstrates is that he received, better said, an oracle by Delphi that said that he was the wisest man. And the thing is that he didn't want to be the wisest man. He couldn't accept that. There has to be someone else. So he goes from place to place trying to find a wisest man. But the thing is that he understands that some of them, people that later are the ones that condemn him, believe they are wise, but they are not wise. And for this reason, Socrates is sentenced to death, and he has to defend himself. And the most important thing is what he says about death. And about death, he says that first, they cannot, for it is not in the nature of things that a bad man should injure a better than himself. And that's an interesting concept because we always think that someone that is not a good man can affect us, or we at least let it happen. So Socrates says this is not important. The most important thing is to understand that a person that is bad cannot hurt a person that does good. And that helps a lot in the concept. The same thing is part of the Apology that he says, I cared not a straw for death, and that my only fear was the fear of doing an unrighteous and unholy thing. For the strong arm of that oppressive power did not frighten me into doing something wrong. And when we came out of Rotunda, the other four went to Salamis and fetched the lion, but I quietly went home. It is very interesting to analyze this passage because first he says that he's not scared about concerning death. He says that it is not wise to be concerned by death. Death is something that is certain in our world. The second thing is that he is not afraid of dying. He's afraid of doing wrong. He's afraid of doing something unholy, and that is also extremely interesting. And lastly, he says of his wrongdoers that they're going to be fetched by a lion. That is a simile that he uses to say, well, they're going to have problems, but I am going to sleep quietly at home. And that's the interesting thing. Socrates knew something, that the best sleep is doing the right thing. And then he continues talking about this, is that he tries to explain why death shouldn't be avoided. And he says this, the difficulty, my friends, is not in avoiding death, but in avoiding unrighteousness, for that runs faster than death. And this is an interesting concept because sometimes people are persecuted by their own wrongdoings, by the things they did wrong. And because they did wrong in their minds, they start to corrupt. And they start to have these problems in the world that Socrates says that follow them and that they don't feel all right because they didn't do the right thing. They just did the wrong thing because they don't want to die, because they don't want to accept the consequences. So maybe dying doesn't mean dying in the physical form. Maybe dying means letting your job die because you're working with a corrupt person. Maybe dying is letting your relationship die because you are with an unrighteous person. It is letting die because you are facing that there is a problem here. That there is a problem, that sometimes we have to let things die because we want to do the right things. And that is the main thing Socrates tells us. The main thing is just let it die if it's not correct. Let it leave if it's not the right thing. For if it is the right thing, then you will feel okay with it. So this is Memento Mori. Sometimes we have to know that we are going to leave this place. We have to remind ourselves. And that leads to another Latin phrase that is widely used but not in the correct way, that is carpe diem. Carpe diem is seize the day. What it means is something that the AA groups really know. It's live one day at a time. Because you don't know, you don't have the certainty if you're going to wake up tomorrow, or if you're going to have your capabilities that you have today. You don't know. And because you don't know, you prepare. And you prepare with happiness and with effort and with everything you got to give to the world. I am Mauricio Arita, and this is Simple Economics Radio.